How's everybody doing? Today is the epic shootout, DX6 Spektrum versus Spektrum's older DX6i. How do they compare, if at all? The DX6, which just came out, is a 6-channel transmitter, just like Spektrum's DX6i. How do they compare? Very little. But first we'll go through the things that they compare, and then we'll contrast those differences. First of all, I believe the feel of the sticks is fairly similar. I learned on the DX6i. I think I spent $280 for it. Yes, I got ripped off. If I'd have gone on the internet, I found one the same day for $80 cheaper, brand new. It came with some flight simulator, which has been really good. The Phoenix 4 it came with. And I've spent many hours practicing on that Phoenix. The relative size of the transmitters are very comparable. They're roughly about the same size. The feel is not entirely the same. The grips on the back, these are plastic and these are rubber, but they're relatively similar. I think they feel, at least in my hands, they feel roughly similar. So it's not like picking up something and having to get an entirely new feel for it. So that's roughly the same. And that's about the only likenesses I found. Just about everything about the DX6 is different than the older DX6i. One of the things I actually liked about the DX6i more than the DX6 is that they had this metal bar, this protecting bar that's also a handle, and on the new DX6 it's rubberized plastic. So I don't know exactly how that's going to hold up over time. I know that this has taken some hits, and I wish that the DX6 had that on it. Now, for most things, I actually like the DX6 as opposed to DX6i. There are a lot of annoying things about the DX6i. There are 0 3-positional switches on the DX6i. You know, and everything was set. For example, your flap switch. If you had a DX6i, you know exactly what I'm talking about. In order to get a 3-position switch, you had to use 2 different switches and a mix. And that's annoying. It also, you have a timer switch, which is also your trainer switch, and also your bind switch back here. And the DX6 does not have that. In fact, you can program everything about this transmitter. You can program every single switch on here. Every single one of them, which I think is cool. You can even program the sticks themselves to serve other functions. For example, if you're going to use this to control a gimbal, you can actually program the DX6 to control a gimbal rather than an airplane or a helicopter or a multi-rotor. One of the things I really like about the DX6 as opposed to the DX6i is that the DX6i did not have a backlight. I recently put one in myself. I modded it myself, and it works well. This also has a backlight on it as well, but it's got an LED right here in the middle. And the other night I left it on the bench, and there's certain timers that you can set, inactivity timers with the DX6, but I saw in the dark this glowing LED where the Spektrum symbol is, and it's got the same symbol there but no LED. And come on guys, it's like $5 to put that in, but that's why they put it on the DX6. DX6i does not have that. Price point, let's talk price point. Price point, DX6i totally wins. You can get them now used for like $100, and new I think you can get them for $130. And if you're just starting out, do exactly what I did. You throw on $130, on this DX6i and just start learning. It's not going to break your bank, and it works really well. I flew some big planes with the DX6i. It works really well. The DX6i works even better. So if somebody was generous and gave you a bunch of money for your birthday, or you got a bonus at work, the DX6 is a good investment. One of the things I like the most about the DX6 is that it talks to me. I have my switches programmed to talk to me. Tell me what that switch is doing. Instead of having to, you're tracking your plane and then, oh, I want to switch to high rates. And so you're kind of fumbling around with your switches and you switch one and, whoa, that was not what I thought that was going to be. So and sometimes I have things set up differently for different models. And I also use different transmitters, and I set them up differently on different transmitters. So when this is talking to me, I don't have to look down. The timer is another annoying thing about the DX6i, is that you had to press the timer switch here. And if you forgot to do that, better count on your memory. And you're going to have either a short flight or you're going to have a dead battery, which I've done both. So that's annoying. This one, I have it set up so that as soon as you throttle up, your timer starts. And then on every minute, you can program every minute what it says to you. And I have mine counting down the minutes, and then at the minute, it'll count down 30 seconds, and then at 10 seconds, it'll count 10 all the way to 0. And I really like that because I don't have to fumble with it. But in fact, you can set the switches to tell you what your timer is. So, say you're flying, you just heard 3 minutes, you don't know how much time's gone by, you can flip a switch and your transmitter will tell you how many minutes you have left. I really like that. It's a neat feature. Like I said, every single switch is programmable, every single one. And you guys know that on the DX6i, your functionality is very, very limited. You could set low rates on your elevator, your aileron, or your rudder buttons. If you wanted to set low rates before without that whole mix, you'd have to set each one individually, which you can do if you like that. I like them all on the same switch. It just makes it a lot easier. I'm not a complicated person. I like things to be simple. In the feel of the buttons themselves, this roller button is rubberized, and you guys that have DX6is, this is pretty slick. And sometimes I kind of had to jam it to get it to click on, and this one is real smooth and rubberized. And it also has a back button and a clear button. So it just gives you a little bit faster way to get through all the menus. It's not at all like my Aurora 9. The Aurora 9 is like the easiest to program transmitter ever. It's great. Touchscreen is just fantastic. And the DX6 is not quite that functional. It's not quite that easy to use, but it's a heck of a lot easier than DX6i. But I'll tell you, as far as smooth stick response, I really like the DX6 and the DX6i, and I had some grumps about the ratcheting system on the Aurora 9. I just don't like that at all, and I couldn't seem to fully draw it out without making the stick super sloppy. So, you get some, you give some. That's how it works. But there's a lot of differences in the functions. For example, you go here to servo setup, and on servo setup you actually have now you have travel, your servo travel, you have your sub trim, and you have your reverse, all in the same area. So that definitely expedites that process. You've got your DR and Expo, which you can set up based on whatever switch you want. You can have your transmitter talk to you about what, like for example, high rates and low rates. I have mine set up that way, so I know by hearing it. Throttle curve, Now, one of the tricky things is that on the DX6i, if you wanted flaps, you always had a flap control there. You know, you had to activate it or it was inactive. But in order to do this one, you have to set your wing up. So it has a function where you can actually go in to system setup. And when you're in system setup, it says, caution, confirm system menu access, your RF will be disabled. So you can't do this while you're flying. I don't know why you would do that anyway unless you were determined to give your plane a dirt nap. We'll go into that here real quick. And you have to say yes. And then it takes you through model select, model type, model name, aircraft type, and that's where you set up your wing, aircraft type. I have this little carbon cub set up with what it says is one aileron and one flap. Now, I've got two flaps, two different servos, but they're on a Y harness. That's what that means by one flap. It means it's on a Y harness, not necessarily one flap servo. And it has you tell what kind of tail you have. And then, just a bonus, it actually lets you assign an image to your plane. So, and if your plane's not on there, which a bunch of mine aren't, you know, you just pick something that fits, or you can go with nothing. So another neat thing is it's got flight modes on here. So I've got a P-47, and that Park Zone P-47 just has a nasty tendency due to the torque of the motor, the Power 15 motor that's in it. It cranks hard to the left due to the torque of the motor. So you can actually set up different flight modes. For takeoff, you can set up a flight mode where you've got a rudder mix already dialed in to counteract that, and then immediately you can go into your second flight mode, which would just be general flying. And then you can program the voice to tell you which flight mode you're in. And then say you have another flight mode for landing, you know, where you have all that stuff set up. It's really neat. It's a really neat function. Let's get out of here. One of the things I like about the DX6i versus the DX6, DX6i, check this out. It turns on and is ready to go in like 3 seconds. Actually less than 3. Here's something I don't like about this. What is that, like 10 seconds? I mean, it's not a huge difference, and there's obviously an awful lot more to load, but it's still just nice to get out to the field and, you know, jam it. Go, 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 go. Let me see. Oh, here's another thing. Throttle cut. Throttle cut. If you had a DX6, you know that annoying little throttle cut button. I took a prop strike to the leg because of that stupid button. And so I actually went through and I modded this DX6i to put in a switch, which works so much better than that stupid button that you had to hold down in order for throttle cut to work. I was holding it down, but you can't hold it down if you're taking a battery apart. You know, the battery plugs apart. So I was taking that apart, bumped my throttle, and it struck me in the leg, through my pants, cut me through my pants, and I have permanent scars on my leg from that. So now it's really nice. I've got mine set up right here. Love it. It's nice. Overall, like I said, price point, $130 brand new. Ouch, $230 brand new. And good luck finding one used on eBay. If people are liking this as much as I am, they're just not going to let it go for any time soon. So I haven't found any used, none, zip. But if you're just getting into the hobby and you're thinking you're kicking it around, both of these are great. I learned on the DX6i. It has function. And this new DX6 has great function. I've enjoyed both of them. I think if I had to pick one though, I'd probably pick the DX6. Partially because I already paid the money for it and I've used it. And also because it's just got a ton of function. And I'm out there just loving flying, and it's talking to me with that suave European voice. In my videos, sometimes you'll hear her little voice telling me, "You have 3 minutes left." It's nice. I like it. I'm a little weird that way though. So overall, both of them are great transmitters. If you're just getting into the sport, go with something like the DX6i. If you're just getting into the hobby, it's, you know, $100 used, and they work great. Yeah, there's some problems with them, but there's a ton of videos on how to fix the problems. I put in the switch and the backlight, because of videos on YouTube. And so far, I haven't seen any need to have to do any modding on the DX6 here. It's very versatile, and I'm enjoying it. So I hope you enjoyed this little review. You make up your mind.